Hey folks, hope everyone's doing well today. Um, Thanks so much for taking the time to join us on our first Soax webinar. We're very excited here at Turtle Wax Pro and Transchem for the opportunity to share a little bit more about our Soax cleaning systems with you. Just before we get started here, we do have this webinar being recorded. So if there's anyone on your team who you would like to have access to the webinar after the fact, just don't hesitate to let us know. We will send this out to everyone. And we do also upload all of our webinars onto our Turtle Wax Pro Learning Center, which is an easy way for you to rewatch it after the webinar is done. Before we get started, a few quick introductions. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mac Ewing, and I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives for the Transchem Group, and that includes Turtle Wax Pro and Soax product lines, among others like you see here today. And on the call with me, we have our sales manager, Dan Goff, and I'll pass it over to Dan just to say a quick introduction about himself as well.
Hey all, my name is Dan Goff. I'm one of our sales managers in our equipment division up in Ontario, Canada at our headquarters in Cambridge. My background here comes down to pressure washers and car wash equipment alike, and I'm here to help support the distributor network in the United States with some of our current distributors that we do have in the States, as well as our distributors and direct clients that we have up in Canada. So I'm hoping, today I can give you guys just a nice crash course version of some of the offerings that we have, and maybe there's some equipment here that might fit the bill for some of your clients as well. So feel free to ask questions. I'm here to help you. So I might not be able to cover everything in this time span, but you guys can always find me after the fact. And I think my email and cell phone is at the end of this webinar. So again, I'm a resource to you, and I'm here to help you. So let's go.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks so much, Dan. I appreciate it. And next, we'll introduce Gerald Pat.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Gerald Patt, Vice President of Sales for the United States for Turtle Wax Pro and Transchem, coming to you live from a beautiful trade show that I'm attending here in Myrtle Beach. And I'm just in the Transchem little show office that we have here. So yeah, excited to be here and to listen to our presentation on soaps, and more so to see if there's an opportunity for any of you to move forward with representing soaps. It's an exciting line for us, and we're very excited to see if we can penetrate the U.S. market even more so than we have in the past with soaps. Thank you.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks, Gerald. And so just as we go forward here in this webinar, a few things we want to cover before we get started. The first is why we're here and why we're running a Soax webinar for the first time. We know that a number of you as car wash distributors, owners, and operators have different cleaning challenges, whether it's in your own wash, whether it's to businesses you sell to. And we believe that the Soax cleaning system is a really strong offering of equipment that can help you solve some of those challenges. We've also heard from the market that some of the long-standing suppliers of pressure washers, of tunnel prep guns, of professional cleaning systems, haven't been able to provide some of the support or some of the breadth of product lines that maybe we did in the past, that they did in the past, sorry. And so as part of OPW Vehicle Wash Solutions alongside Bellinger, PDQ, ICS, and Kesseltronics, we wanted to highlight some of the breadth of what we have within the Transchem group as well and ensure that we're able to provide that information to you. So our goal today is to make sure that we introduce you to these Soax cleaning products and really start a dialogue about how we can get you to try one out or to try multiple of these products out. And to do so, we definitely want to make sure that we're working on a price point that allows you to try your first machine with us, gets you excited about it, and allows you to see how Soaps could support your business. So as Dan mentioned, at the end of the call, we have his contact info, and we'll certainly send that out. Today, we just want to give you that overview. But if there is something you see here that you think, hey, this might be a good fit for our business or one of our customers' businesses, certainly do let us know. We want to hear that from you. And we'll also be sure to follow up with something that allows you to review pricing in a way that makes sense for your business. On the call today, we'll cover a quick overview of what is the Soax lineup, who can use Soax, the types of equipment that we offer. We'll do a quick overview of the products, And then we have a special guest with us today, Seth Bledwood. Seth is the owner of Cactus Car Wash Innovations, a great guy. He's not wearing his hat today, but we do have a picture of him in his hat. So we'll be sure to share that later. And he's going to share just a little bit about his experience living, working, running a business in Arizona, and working with the Soax products and with Dan. And then finally a Q&A period at the end. But as always, ask questions, post comments. We do want to hear those in real time, so don't feel at all like you have to wait until the end. We want to make sure that we have you asking questions throughout. Awesome. So what is the Soax lineup of products? Really, it's a customizable range of cleaning solutions from pressure washers, tunnel prep, self-serve equipment that allows you to work with your business needs. And when we say customizable, really, I think what we want you to take away from that is these are very modular machines. So they are built in Cambridge, Ontario, Canada, at our head office. They're all hand built, really heavy duty components. It's something that we've seen a lot of durability with in the over a decade that we've been selling this product. And we have customers in pretty much every segment of the professional cleaning space. A lot of self-serve washes across North America do utilize the Soax products, but they're also used in agriculture, in marinas, and in other sectors. So, as we go through, just keep in mind this is something that we haven't done a great job of marketing in the US market, especially. But across Canada, this equipment is proven, definitely battle tested, and something that we've seen a lot of great success with. Who can benefit from Soax? So Soax is utilized in car washes, as I mentioned, self-serve in bays and tunnels. So there is a broad use case of offerings there. We also offer Soax in fleet washing, in auto dealerships, food processing plants, manufacturing, agriculture, and apartment complexes. And this is something that Dan has experience working with all of these different industries. And I know that as distributors, some of you service some of those other industries. We're going to focus primarily on car washing today because most of you are car washers at heart. So do keep in mind that as we go forward, there are these other industries that we're here to support. But for the sake of today's conversation, we'll focus on professional car washing. Awesome. So the first product offerings that we have are our pressure washers, and this is how we actually came to acquire Soax as a business. So just a bit of background for you folks. Transchem started in 1974 by my grandfather, Murray Ewing. We were always a chemical first business. We didn't have a broad offering of equipment that we could offer. We had chemistry. But by acquiring a company based in Ontario called KenPro, we were able to add professional car wash systems like Soax to our lineup as well, just to supplement and add additional offerings to what we could provide to distributors or operators. So pressure washers is how Soax got started within our company. And I'll pass it over to Dan now. And Dan, if you could just share a little bit more about the Soax Multi-Pro and the stationary pressure washer and kind of what you've seen with these in the market and how you would explain them if you were talking to someone who's looking to learn more today.
Yep. Okay, that sounds great. Thank you, Mackenzie. So, folks, I'm just going to I don't want to just regurgitate what you're seeing on the screen here, but I'll give you just the skinny or the crash course on just kind of each and where that will fit into different marketplace and in different segments. So, right off the hop, we have one of our pieces of equipment. It's called the Multi-Pro. The Multi-Pro is a multi-pump operating system that ranges between 2 and 5 pumps. They all have PLCs, which is a programmable logic computer. So that's just kind of the brains for the unit itself. But again, you might not necessarily folks find this in car wash applications, but you certainly will in dealership markets. And we do sell quite a bit of them up in Canada just because of the need and demand. Again, depending on how many operators you have, all of our equipment, we can build it to spec. So if you're 208 or you're 3-phase or you're single phase 240, that's just all we have to talk about. And then we just need to determine how many drops you have. So from there, we can kind of gauge on, hey, does a 2-operator system make more sense, or does a 5-operator system work? So we see it a lot in food processing plants, pig barns, chicken barns, cattle cart, fleet washing, just like Max said, anywhere that you have multiple operators. But when it comes down to the multi-pro, it's not best suited if you require chemical application. So we can work down that. And the reason for that is that you have a single pipeline that's being fed to these units and it's being distributed to the bays. And the reason I say no chemical is the fact that if Joe wants chemical and Dave doesn't, too bad, everyone gets chemical. So we stay away from chemical and application. But if we are in these service departments, in these dealerships, for example, we can facilitate putting this equipment in, and it's all that they need. So whether that's up on softeners, not, you could add in secondary heat systems as well. You see that more popular within the agricultural markets. But in the spirit of car wash, you might not necessarily find multi-pros a big player. What you might find is the next line below is our Soax stationary units. And I try to look at the philosophy that we do a couple things really, really, really well. There's lots of companies out there that got 65 different SKUs for pressure washers. I've been in the pressure washer business for about the last 15 years, outside of Transchem and car wash. So I've kind of seen a little bit of everything when it comes to pressure washers. So our most popular and probably most attributed to the car wash industry is our 2004. That is a 2000 PSI at 4 gallons per minute. And we have options to put that into floor frames or stainless L brackets. Where we find the popularity of this is, clients go out, distributors, they've just sold a $300,000 tunnel or $400,000 tunnel, and they add this piece of equipment for just general maintenance to wash down bays, wash down equipment, just the general cleanliness of the sites. And what is nice is, more and more we're finding on the municipal level, more mandates coming in for cleanliness. So the fact that, we have a one-stop shop when it comes to pressure washing, it makes it a lot easier for us as well to facilitate those deals. And along the way here, folks, every site is different, and I totally respect that. So when we get into the stage of when we're quoting equipment, I go through a series of questions that I would require to need. And then I take that, if we get an order, I pass it on to production, and then we just stay in communication along the way. So back with the pressure washer side, I also have 2 other models, my 2008, which is right in the code, 2000 PSI, 8 gallons per minute. Not the most popular, but if you do require high volume, so if that's in the pig barns is a great example of that. You can tee these things off. Again, all you have to do is come to me and just say, this is what my client is looking for. Where can you help me? And I just put that together nice and easy. So I kind of take the thinking out of it, and I can present that to you in a nice, clean quotation. I also have our 3005, which is 3000 PSI at 5 gallons per minute. We do see these more in the construction area. Sanitation is another really good example of that. But again, just general cleaning, a little higher volume, a little higher PSI. Everything's built on belt drives and stainless steel frames. We do have that option. Some folks are loyal to cat pumps. That's okay. I can add a cat pump to it. Our standard is the general, the inner pumps. So again, that's just you guys asking, hey, I need X, Y, and Z. You might not need unloaders. You might not need accessories. I can totally respect that. But the equipment itself does stationary come as a bare unit. So all I do is hey, folks, you need hose reels, hoses, lances, nozzles, the kit and caboodle. Just ask the question and I can get that done for you. So that's essentially just kind of the bread and butter on our pressure wash line, I think, if there's any questions to that.
Awesome. No, that's great, Dan. And we did have a question in the chat from Jameson, and he's asking if this is a mobile unit or more of a stationary unit, which we know it.
It's
Yeah.
definitely more stationary. Standard would be stationary, but we have added stainless caster sets to our pressure washers. But then the next question is your limitation on distance as well, because they are electric pressure washers, whether it's a 5 horse or a 10 horse or a 7.5 horse. But to say mobile in the field, I suppose maybe if you had a large enough gen pack, maybe, but we don't do that too often. Most of our equipment, to answer your question, does stay in the stationary position.
Yeah, probably not the best use case today for something like that. Jameson mentioned a truck and semi wash that's interested, but a stationary might be too capable and expensive for the task.
Okay. So are you? I'm sorry, maybe I missed what you're asking there.
Yeah, just adding some context there from Jameson's end. So I think just to summarize that, and thanks for the question, Jameson. More of a stationary unit. Awesome. Like we do have certainly a number of truck washes that use Soax equipment, but the stationary pump stand could be a little bit overkill if what they were looking for was something more like a mobile unit. Is that
Okay.
fair to say, Dan?
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. And there's so many people nowadays building pressure washers, and Seth will probably speak of this at Cactus, and probably anyone else in our company is I I I I make no bones about what we can and can't do. If there's something I'm thinking, hey, that's not realistic or we can't do it, I don't overpromise anything. I'm a realist when it comes to equipment, and I try to just steer this in a way that, hey, this actually makes sense for your client, or you know what, Jameson, I'm sorry, I don't have something I can offer in what you're looking for. So from at least that perspective, you're getting an honest opinion, and moving forward, hey, you know what, maybe that's something in the future. But today, when you get into that portability, you're best to look at some gas options, and I can help you steer in that direction as well.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks, Dan.
So if there's
Perfect.
nothing else to that, I think you can just skip over to the next side there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So the next slide we have here is focused more on our modular self-serve system. And so these are some of the pictures here, specifically the top right photo that you folks can see of one of the self-serve systems out in the field. And this is what we'll be talking a little bit more about with Seth as well. But Dan, back to you there just to share a little bit more about our modular self-serve system.
Yeah, thanks. So we have obviously our series of equipment of chemical wall dispensers as well as pumping equipment. Again, you're gonna probably hear me say this a few times, but every site is different. So as long as I'm under the understanding of what parameters you're working with, I can kind of guide you in a way to say, hey, you know what? If we want to save a few dollars, do we have an option to put this onto a wall bracket versus a floor frame? So essentially, when it comes down to these systems, the modular systems, the most popular that I'm selling those in is from 3 bay up to 8 bays. If we get into a case of a 10 bay, for example, we just do 5 and 5, and we keep that separated so we don't lose any downtime from chemical dispensing out to the bay. We've learned about this. So these are just little things that we fine tune along the way. But again, very similar to our multi pros and our pressure washers. I can do this in the 3 phase or the single phase. So right off the bat, as long as I know that, what chemicals that you want to work with. So on the high pressure side, you have your soap and your wax. And then on the other side, you got your foam brush, your triple foams, your pre-soak, your tire cleans, and so on. All of these pieces of equipment can be added on to the equipment. So essentially, if we're taking a 4 bay site, we're taking one wall pack, but we're adding 4 stainless solenoids on there, and that displaces the water out to each of the bays via manifolds. I can build this onto frames. I can add this into spot-free systems. Again, it's one of those things where you guys just give me the bread and butter of what you're looking for, and I can build that quote exactly to your specifications. If there's something in the future, we've done this before, where someone sticks to the bread and butter of too high pressure, too low pressure, and then a year from now they start earning some additional revenue, and they say, hey, Dan, I'd love to add a triple foam gun. No problem. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. We're going to sell you a 4-pack triple foam wall pack and tie that into the manifold systems in the pump. So it's quite easy and simple. It looks complicated and everything else, but the quality of our builds, the guys in our production shop are got a great team in operations and service. So we're here to support you. But once you guys do give me, that information, again, I'm the type that I just ask questions. If I see something I'm not certain of, I will be picking up the phone to call you to call you out on X, Y, and Z, whatever that question might be. So this is a good example of essentially 3 bays to 8 bays. And the reason I'm not saying 1 or 2 is because I think on the next slide, that might give you a little bit idea where I'm coming from here. So I think you're good on that side, unless there's any questions to that.
Awesome. Yeah, and we'll keep rolling through here, Dan. You can keep
Okay.
going. And again, for everyone, just like Jameson did there, feel free to post questions in the chat or after we'll do a Q&A. So thanks,
Okay,
Dan.
cool. So the one unit in here, it's actually one of my favorite pieces of equipment, especially when it comes down to distributors as well, because of the simplicity. So what you're looking at there essentially is a 2 bay car wash setup. You've probably seen at the very top there, you see obviously your 2 flow jets on the far right. There's my 2 low pressure settings. And then I have my soap and wax wall packs, essentially now all built onto one frame. And on the far left would be my high pressure rinse. This system, opposed to our others, are gravity fed. We have done it in the past on pressure fed, and we can talk about that later. But our standard bread and butter is a gravity fed, 2 chemical high pressure, 2 chemical low pressure. On the bottom side, if we're talking to guys like Seth, Seth's a cat man, so he loves his cat. We just build that spec with an upgrade on a cat pump. Sometimes Seth or some of our other clients add spot free. We fabricate a secondary little frame on there to accommodate the 3 horsepower spot free pump. And we also, with that in mind, is this is where you're on that 1 or 2 bay operators. I get a lot of guys in condominiums, guys' houses, marinas, essentially anywhere that's washing and someone wants a simple frame. Bay Pro is what I would guide them to, and that would be up to 2 operators. Essentially, how that just works is that you're going to put that at your car wash, so you got your coin boxes, whatever it might be. There's other guys who put them in their detail shops or their own homes. I just simply plug in a 3/4 inch hose to the barb that's at the back side of that unit. We can add a hot and cold mixing valve if you so desire. And then all our chemical injection, of course, is everything's built on top. We add an air compressor, run the poly lines, and you have yourself a car wash. They've become obviously more popular just for the fact from the price point, but also just the convenience of service and as well as setup. So not much has to go into it compared to the last slide where, you have multiple wall packs and multiple pieces of equipment kind of spread within an equipment room. The Bay Pro is just nice tight spot, drop her in place, hook your air and your water up, and you now have a car wash that's operational. So very popular unit. My buddy Seth there, he's one of our big movers of this equipment. So thank you, Seth. You're awesome. And on top, just to speak to that, is we also have our Soax spot free systems that we manufacture. So we get into a little bit of the reverse osmosis. Again, I can build those based up to 8 bays essentially. So whether it's 1 to 8, I can just build a frame system with that, with the motor pumps that are on there, and tie it in. And you have yourself spot free when you add your softener and so on. Yep.
Awesome. That's great, Dan. And something that I think you mentioned there that it's good for us to kind of take a step back and clarify as well is a lot of what we start with when it comes to our Soax equipment is pretty bare bones. We're trying to give the simplest solution to the problem that our customers have, and then add on to that. And I think what that does in that modular approach is A, it allows us to keep the price as low as possible. B, it allows us to decrease the number of components that are required. And then C, when we do need different components, we standardize them. So it's built to avoid stocking spare parts to whatever degree possible, where you don't need to have a full warehouse filled with different parts or different offerings in order to be able to successfully maintain the system.
Yeah, and what's nice with this as well is I did this for a project out in New Zealand, and this fellow was a turtle wax distributor. And I just placed a phone call to him one day just to kind of pick his brain, saying, "Hey, you're using Transcam. Like, what are you using for self-serve, right?" And he started kind of him and hawing of his issues and so on. And he's actually purchased now our Soax equipment, so we're all the way down in down under, I guess is what it would be, out in New Zealand. And it's nice because, if you get the Bay Pro, you get the bread and butter, the 2 highs, 2 lows in your rinse. But if you come back and say, you know what, my client could use that triple foam or could use a bug prep or a desalter, well, we can just add another wall pack and tie it all in together. So you're not limited to just, oh, gee whiz, I got only 2 high, 2 low, nothing I can do. That's not true. You can add on after the fact. And I like to just do that from a comfort level with clients because, if you're not going to buy everything, everyone has a budget. I make suggestions, not decisions. So if it's something that you do think in the future, just know that, hey, you can be reassured that, hey, I can add this in the future. It's a nice upsell for your clients as well as for their clients as well. So very nice to work with that way. And I just want to make a comment just on some of our distributors, whether it's in Canada or Seth. I'm going to maybe speak to Seth because we're talking to the U.S. market. Is, Seth and I kind of, when we first got started, it was kind of an unknown, right? It was, oh yeah, I'm not sure how all this is going to work out. I'm dealing with turtle wax already. Who's this Dan guy, whatever it might be, and we had our hiccups. We're not perfect by any stretch. We're human and bleed the same as everyone else. And I just want to make a comment that, and Seth can maybe speak to this as well, is that when we do business, we think of it in long-term partnerships. we've never been really that interested in the short term. It's all about the long term because, you know, your customers keep coming back. You have long-term clients. We want to help you be successful and support that. You can always, always, always lean on me for resources. And again, you know, we had our hiccups at the beginning, but you know what? We worked out the kinks, and we've built a really great relationship with Cactus and Seth specifically. And I hope that I can offer that to, you know, Gerald and his team, as well as the distributors, new or existing. I'm here to help you guys. I'm a real straight shooter. You're going to probably learn that pretty fast. But I want you to be successful because that means we're successful. So I hope that, you know, based on some of this information here, you know, that we've gathered, I know we're just kind of ripping through it. I can always be found after the fact. So if you do need to contact me, reach out to me. I'm totally happy to answer your questions if you don't want to ask them here today. And yeah, good luck out there. I want to be able to help you, and I hope we're all successful. Thanks, Mac.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Dan. And Tom King joined us today, and he asked about pre-soak and tire cleaner and how we're delivering these to the bay. Do you mind just sharing a little bit more about how the chemistry is delivered to the bay through these systems?
Yeah, so if we're going to have, just let's take Tom's example of tire clean, for example. So all of our systems are working on with a hydrominer and a venturi. So when we have chemicals sitting on the ground, of course, you know, we're going to turn on our tire clean inside the bay. That chemical is going to be dispensed, withdrawn, I should say, from the container, and it's going to drop into one of our chemical dispensers or our chemical wall packs. And we put on an injector tip on there, depending, of course, on what the dilution ratio that we're working with, as well as water quality. And that at that point it's diluted by the time that it gets to the tank and then pushed out to the bay. So if you have a foam brush, for example, at, you know, 121 or 240 to 1, we just put on a pink or a purple tip on there so that we can get that correct results that we want.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks. And Tom, did that answer your question there? I'll let you just, if there's any other follow-up there, share it in the chat. One thing you did mention there, Dan, that I also wanted to double click on was water quality. And we know we talk a lot about water quality on these webinars. We're very focused on chemistry that works with all types of water. We have hard water tolerant chemistry, but of course, you know, one of the 5 factors of cleaning that you'll see on our learning center, on our website, and in these webinars is quality of water. You know, do you feel like you've seen any challenges where water quality can get in the way of the effectiveness of the system or have a negative impact in?
Well, sure. We live in Cambridge. We have some of the hardest water in the country. So
Mm-hmm.
we're well aware of hard water. But again, that comes down to a little bit of due diligence and homework to find out, hey, what the water quality is. Because at the end of the day, the way I try to look at it is, hey, you got warm water, you got nice soft water. Well, chemicals are going to bond better to that than hard water. So what does that mean for your clients? Well, it means that they get to save a little bit more money in the long run as well, because they're not burning through more chemical, essentially. So obviously, the better quality water, the better the wash, just naturally and in general, but as well as long-term savings that can be found. That doesn't matter if it's going to be on the fittings and corrosion, or if that's just going to be inside the tanks themselves. Water quality makes a heck of a difference here. And the better the water quality, the better the results.
Nice.
But
Nice.
if
Yeah,
you've got something you're not sure of and your guys are going, hey, you know, I'm at however many parts per million, let me know this. You know, we might be able to find a different solution or be able to add something on here to make it more effective for your client's wash.
nice. That's great. And I did just want to add to that as well. You know, one of the major outcomes of poor water quality can be spotting on the vehicle. And we do have a spot-free system, which you mentioned earlier. So that's something that we certainly can tie into a system that people purchase. Um, Awesome. And Andre, thanks for joining us. Andre, you've got your hand up. I'm going to hit allow mic for you. So your mic should be allowed to be unmuted now. And if you do want to ask a question, you just click the microphone button in the top right, which is by the red leave button. Don't click that. We want you here. But to the left of that, there's a mic button. It's muted, but you should be able to just click unmute. I
Hey,
think you're all set. Yeah, right on, Andre. Hey, how are you doing
okay,
today?
sorry. I was having some problem with the connection.
No, you're
Uh,
great, man. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. my question. Sorry, I missed the beginning of the meeting, but in regards of all the other equipment in Bay, are you supplying everything like the coin meters, the boom, and everything, or you're maybe my question is out of order right now, but do you supply the old equipment, or it's going to be only the pumping equipment?
Hey, I can answer that. Hey, Andre, how you doing? You're at D Castel, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we just met the other week there. Great.
Yep.
So Andre, this is where I come out as just a straight shooter to you and to all distributors, and I would tell this to Seth as well, and he knows this. You're gonna get your best pricing on the Soax equipment. If I could, yeah, sure, I could go out and I could sell you guys the coin boxes, the booms, the accessories, the guns, and everything else, no problem. But I think I would be lying to you if you couldn't find your local sub manufacturer or US based or Canadian based, wherever you are. Uh, as a distributor, you're just going to get a better cost on the accessories, we're going to call it. When it comes down to the equipment we manufacture, that's where we can play with the price, and that's where your benefit's going to come from. But I only have so much room reselling accessory equipment versus the Soax equipment. Does that make sense to you?
Yep, exactly. This is what I wanted to know. If
Yeah.
there was any point for me to quote and ask you for quoting on like the
No.
Accessories.
Yeah, like Andre, if you got into a situation where you said, "Hey Dan, I got a 4 base site I'm looking for. I already got the coin boxes, I already got the booms, I already got the hoses, so on." Wonderful, that's great. All I would want to know is what equipment is it that you're intending to sell? Let me just make sure everything ties in here together. There's no additional relays, nothing else additional that we would need to go over the top. But if it's just the bread and butter, you're putting in X coin box, that's fine. I'm totally okay with that. But you're gonna beat my price all day when it comes to accessories. I know that, and you know that.
Thank you very much for your answer.
You're welcome.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that question, Andre, and great to hear from you. And it's funny, actually, we were preparing this webinar yesterday, and we had a slide about our dog wash systems. So with Soax, we manufacture dog wash systems, and Dan said, don't even put it in there. People can go find cheaper dog wash systems somewhere else. Which is it?
Actually, if I speak for Quebec, you have some stores that offer that. They call it's called Mondu, and they offer it for free for their customer who buy like dog food or things like that, and it's free. So try to compete against them. It's almost impossible. I don't know how it is all around there, but for us, we're forgetting about that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. That's a good example of where we want to focus on, I think, where we can be strong, and we think that this core functionality with our spot free system, our Bay Pro, and some of the other equipment with Soax is where we can excel. So thanks for your question, Andre. I also laughed that Tom King said he's got Dan on speed dial, so he'll follow up later. I don't know who to worry more about, Dan or Tom in that scenario.
Definitely Tom.
Yeah, there you go. I would think so as well. So awesome. Thanks, Dan. And again, folks, if you do have questions, if you do have thoughts, please keep them coming. Post in the chat here as well. We want that. I mentioned a hat earlier. He wasn't wearing it today, which is okay. We'll let it slide this time. But we are joined by Seth Bledwood from Cactus Car Wash. Dan's mentioned Seth throughout the call here, so great to have him on. Seth, thank you so much for joining us. Just quickly here, so Seth is the owner of Cactus Car Wash. It's a newer distributorship based out of just outside of Chandler, Arizona. And Seth's a great operator, someone who's been in the industry, knows car washing inside and out. And you may recognize him from some of the ICA shows in the past. He's always been a mainstay at the Turtle Wax Pro booth. So, Seth, thanks so much for joining us today. Can you hear us okay right now?
I definitely can. I cannot turn on my camera though.
That's okay. You're coming in here. We can hear you. So your camera is set up, and there is a button beside the microphone button in the top right corner there. So if you see the line through it, that means your camera's off. But if you don't see a line through it, no worries. We'll just keep going with audio.
Yeah, there's it's just unselectable at this point right now.
Okay, got it. Well, let's keep going with just audio. But yeah, Seth, thanks so much for being here. I guess we wanted to get started by just quickly kind of hearing from you a little bit about your business in Arizona and kind of how you came to be connected with Dan and the Soax product line.
So yeah, thanks again for even having me do this today. I've been with Turtle Wax now for, I don't know, it's been a few years, selling chemical and soaks equipment. And actually, me and Dan got in touch. I think it was through you, Mac, who introduced us when we were talking about self-serve equipment and whatnot. So we've had pretty great success running with the soaps. Before that, a lot of people do either Clean Ride, or you have a couple other brands that are, you know, US based that we were using primarily before that. Since we switched over to soaps, it's been kind of fantastic in the way that, you know, building that relationship with Dan that we've had now. And like he said, he's a straight shooter. I'm the same way. We get along really great. And it's been easy to work with him on situations we've come across with maybe some of the design layout of either the Bay Pro or the self-serve car wash systems for that aspect. I mean, we've had just minor tweaks here and there where I was like, hey, maybe we should add this or we should change this. And then they just made it happen. And now it's a staple on this equipment. So working with them in that aspect, they really listen to distributors on certain things with the equipment that maybe might be easier to work on certain things or whatever. So they take that criticism and they really put it into a practical application. And they're like, hey, let's do that. Let's fix this. And so it's been a fantastic relationship with these guys overall. The Bay, I think Tom was asking about that. I'll go back and answer that question. He was asking how that tire and engine and pre-soak get delivered to the self-serve bays. That's going to be via FlowJet. So if you go back to that Bay Pro and you look on the front of it, there's two flow jets on the very right-hand tanks. Those are your pre-soak and your tire and engine. So they get pulled directly from the bottom of those two tanks and pumped out straight to the bays. It's up to 2 bays, obviously 1 or 2. And the gauges on the front, those regulators, those are going to be your adjustments for those. So it's a fairly simple system in that aspect. Everything's very accessible for maintenance purposes. I use cat pumps. I do not use the generals, and that's just merely preference. That goes for anybody and everybody. Whatever you want, if you're a general guy, if you're a cat guy, I just run cats because everything else we have runs cats. So as far as the time frame, like logistically, I know we had some hiccups at the very beginning, and logistically speaking, we are all the way across the country and some. So getting equipment in a timely manner, that was, you know, a bit of an issue at first, but working with Dan closely on that stuff. At the end of the day, I can call Dan and I can, you know, for lack of a better word, I can bitch at him and be like, hey, I need to get this equipment here, and he gets it done. I mean, he's fantastic to work with. And then now he's got Kevin over there as well, running the whole manufacturing bit. Kevin's a wizard in knowledge when it comes to that equipment. So if you have anything that you might need in particular, like they were talking about bare bones, it's cool because it is modular in the app in the sense that you can be like, all right, this is, I have a 2-bay, I need these applications, I need to add a wall pack, and then say, like for the Bay Pro systems themselves, I use those 2-bay Bay Pro systems mainly in RV washes. The reason being is because instead of having all the wall packs taking wall space, I have this really compact unit that is very accessible, and I can put it in a small room and it just does the job. It has your basic functions in order to get those jobs done. And I can be like, hey, I got 2 wands, I got this, I got that. And then they put it all together and then they make it happen. So working with them in that aspect is fantastic. Like I said, Dan's great. Mac's obviously fantastic. We've known each other for a long time now. So working with him is great. If you have any questions on this, you can feel free to get my information, and I am more than happy to answer these questions. We move a lot of these units, Bay Pros, and as of recently, a lot of the car wash stuff. The pressure washer stuff, I typically don't get the chemical functions on those. We use the pressure washers mostly for like boat washes and stuff, small applications where people just need a really high pressure washer that does the job. But as far as the Bay Pros go, those are great applications, like he was saying, for marinas. RV washes is where we found the most success by far. I think last year we probably moved, I don't know, Dan can answer this, we moved a lot of those last year. And the car wash ones are going pretty great too. The construction of these things is one of the largest selling points for me. So when it comes down to a durability aspect that Mac was talking about in the very beginning, is I've been a technician for a lot of companies, or distributors, pardon me, across the U.S. I've worked on everyone's equipment, from in-bay automatics to tunnels to self-serves. I've been doing this industry for 15 years as a technician up until I started my business a couple of years ago. I look at everything from a maintenance perspective. I look at everything from a durability perspective to the customers. So I see it in a different way than probably, just a random customer would look at it. So when you look at it in that perspective, stainless steel is solid quality. One of the things you'll notice about the cheaper or some of the other brands, the weld points on their stainless are terrible. They rust out fast. These do not do that. So the durability is there. A lot of the parts on this thing too, you can buy them from Soax or Transchem, or you can just get them on Clean Right and stuff and make those. If you need a quick part, right, then get it overnighted to you. So they're super easy to switch out parts on. Nothing's like super exclusive to them. They engineer just a solid up base for you to work with, and it is fantastic for what it does. Again, like Dan was saying too, I've asked him in the past, I'm like, hey, do you guys do meter boxes? Do you guys do the hoses and the booms? And just like he said, on those things, you're better off buying those directly from Clean Right or Car Wash Superstore or anything like that. You will find that a lot of those parts for the in-bay self-serve stuff, I usually go through, if you're going booms and stuff, I usually use like most Maddox and stuff because they pair well with the equipment. So if I'm going to stay with high-end Soax equipment, I'm putting high-end stuff out in the base too. So that's just my take on it. If you guys have any questions, again, feel free to just shoot me a question. I'm more than happy to answer anything, especially if you have any tech-related questions on these things too. I think one of the things I didn't cover is the control panels that are built onto the side of these pump stands, whether you're doing the Soax Bay Pro system or that Multi Pro, which is like your self-serve, that one that goes up to 5 pumps. They have a control panel that's mounted onto the side. Now, on that control panel, it's pretty great on how it's engineered because per how many bays you have selected, they have terminals that they put in these that are already pre-wired on their end. So everything for them is almost plug and play. You're just bringing in your wires, everything's perfectly labeled, you're hooking right into it, and you're off to the races. You're not doing a bunch to get this thing up and running. It's just a water feed, a main power, and just hook your comm wires up and you're good to go. I got a question from Pat here. He's asking how the pricing is compared to US competitors. So I will say on this, the pricing is definitely going to be on the mid to upper range on the pricing. The one thing I will say about that is you will be paying a little bit more, but when it comes down to it, again, the durability and the compactness of the machine itself, it fits in tight spaces. A lot of these equipment rooms, especially on older car washes that you're remodeling, have tight spaces. This fits a perfect model to put into those spaces where if you don't have a lot of room to work with, you're getting that compactness to be able to use that in those applications. And then the other things is servicing and maintenance on these. So a lot of the other places I know, Custom Craft and I guess a couple other ones got sold or bought out, but Custom Craft specifically too, like they have direct drives and stuff. I like the direct drives, but the problem is you start getting larger sizes. The pump setup now becomes a lot wider and bigger and bulkier. And so you lose the space. I'm an old-fashioned guy. I like the belt drive, and that's what they do on these, and it works great. We don't have a lot of issues with these things. But as far as the price point goes, again, you're going to be on the upper end. The quality is there. You will notice it. I have Bay Pros and stuff we installed last year at the beginning of the year. I've had 0 calls for service on those things. They are still running perfectly. Not one problem. So if you're going to go, hey, out in the market and try and sell this, you can sell it all day on just durability and service and maintenance purposes, or I would say lack thereof service and maintenance. You don't need a lot of service on these. They do a good job. If there's anything else, yeah, feel free to shoot a question in the comments and I'll be happy to answer them.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Seth. That was a great overview, and we really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to join today and to share that, and thanks for the kind words there. We did also, Shay from our team asked, in your opinion, what are the aspects that make Soax, comparably more desirable to other products? I won't say more desirable because it's our product. Obviously, we're biased, but I think, what we heard from you directly was the quality of the build, the longevity of the product, lower, if no, servicing and maintenance requests, and the ability to supplement the machines with different parts and components that you can either buy through Transchem, or if you need something in a pinch, or you can find something at a lower cost that works well for you, you can buy from CleanRight as well. Is that kind of a good summary to Shay's question?
Yeah, I think that's an awesome summary on that. I think that's where I found the difference. Like I said, I moved away once the modularity and the durability. I mean, those two things specifically, and how fast that I can install one of these machines is fantastic. Like I said, it's very plug and play. There's not a lot to it, and everything is very accessible. So in those aspects, it won me over, and we move quite a bit of this stuff. You can ask these guys. Once I got one in, and then we got another one in, and then we changed some things and started tweaking things and improved on the construction. Then I was like, okay, yeah, we're all in on this now. So yeah.
Yeah, big time. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Seth, for your time today. We really appreciate you joining and talking to the group, and very kind of you to offer your guidance to others on the call today as well who are interested.
Oh, you guys are so welcome. Thanks for having me.
No, thanks a lot, Seth. That's great. And so wrapping up today for the group, again, if you do have any questions or comments, please post them in the chat. But also, as Dan mentioned, he's certainly very reachable, great guy to talk to. He's a guy who you'll talk to for a long time, as some of the folks on the call today have already shared. So Dan's our sales manager. He is based in Ontario, but he does work with customers globally. So certainly able to support. We have our team boots on the ground in the US market as well. Gerald Pat, who's on the call today and introduced himself earlier, as well as Eric Brooks, who's also on the call as our National Director of Service for the US. We're there in the US market, a large team of people coast to coast and supported by great partners at OPW as well. So we want to help in markets globally. We've seen great success in Canada. We really do want to increase our reach and what we can do to support the car washing market and beyond in the US. So Dan's contact info is here, and we'll send it out after the webinar as well. But his email is dgoff@transchem.com, and you can see his phone number there. And Dan, thank you very much as well for taking the time today to support. Last question here we have from Shay. What kind of post-purchase support, service, or training is there for Soax equipment? So certainly we've covered a lot of the support piece. I think that's something where we take a lot of pride in support at Transchem, whether it's chemical, whether it's equipment, or otherwise. We're all here to help. So all of our phone numbers are accessible. We're all available and ready to support our partners. So that's something that we certainly offer. Servicing, that's something that once we sell the equipment, typically the distributor themselves will service that equipment. It's all simple. But if there was any questions or challenges there, certainly we'd be able to support. And then training, when it comes to Soax equipment, Dan, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Is there a lot of training that would be required for someone who isn't familiar with this type of equipment, or how might that look?
Well, I suppose if you're not familiar with pumps and motors and pumps and pressure, yeah, it might be a little bit trickier, but we do have training manuals that I would supply to everyone who does request one. So it just goes down to essentially our training manuals are just kind of a breakdown of all the parts of the equipment. It gives us our troubleshooting. So if you're taking like a multi-pro, for example, we got a little HMI screen that sits on there. It tells me 3 faults, for example, or 5 faults. It's a control failure. Well, it just kind of nails down what the problem is at hand right away. So again, I do this for my clients direct or distributors. Pick up the phone and call me. I am more than happy to help you folks. And you know what? There's no stupid questions in this industry. It's one of those things you might as well just know the answer to it. So you can always reach out to me. You know, some people need schematics. Some people need to know frame diagrams and drawings because they're working in a certain space. Ask the question. I'm happy to provide you the resources that are available to me. I have no problem giving those over to you as well. Again, kind of everything always for me comes back to, you know, strategizing, communicating, and executing. So if we can nail down those 3, you know, we're going to build a great relationship with you. And as Seth said, you know, you just pick up the phone. It doesn't always have to be good news. You know, it's a partnership. So even if it's bad news, I want to hear about that too. Where can we solve your problem? What's going on? Where can we jump in? How can we make this streamlined to make it easier for your clients? If you guys are having a good experience with us and you're selling equipment, we're all making a few dollars and we're all looking after our clients. So it's a nice trade-off, you know, and I know a lot of folks out there got the Turtle products out there. If you don't, you know, maybe that's something you want to look at as well. And Eric and his team and Gerald and his team, like these guys are great resources. We are here to help you. Please utilize us because, you know, if we don't know the questions, we don't have the answers either. Right. So, but like Seth said, you know, like good, bad, or ugly, he leans on guys like myself and the team that I have behind me. And we all do what we can to ensure that you folks are successful in the field as well. You're anything that you need, give me an answer. If I don't have an answer, I find answers for you. So just a little bit how I operate, and Gerald, Mac, and Seth, they can all speak to that as well, I'm sure. I'm here to help you guys. So, you know, the back end program, service and support, ask questions. What do you need? You know, what can I do to help you guys out here? So not a problem at all. My digits are on the screen there, one deal at a time. And as they come, you know, even if you're quoting, we lose it. Hey, maybe we learned something here today. So ask the questions for sure.
Awesome. That's great. Well, thanks, Dan. And I really appreciate everyone's time today and joining the webinar. As I mentioned, we'll send a follow-up email after the webinar with this info. The recording will be on Turtle Wax Pro Learn. And thanks again for your time and for taking this out of your day to be with us here. We'll see you for our next webinar. Typically, we do them every other month, and we've been jamming them in every month. So we'll see you folks very soon. Happy washing, and we'll talk to you later. Take care.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.